if you really, really, truly don't want to be exhausted anymore or to resentful or to be burnt out, there is hope. There are tools and there are resources like this book and plenty of others out there that will help you.
Welcome back, mompreneurs, to another episode of the Good Enough Mompreneur Podcast, where we delve into the stories and strategies that empower us to pursue our mompreneur journeys while embracing the beautiful chaos of balancing business and family. I'm your host, Angela Mishuli, and today's episode is a special bonus surprise episode that I knew as I was having a conversation with our guest that I needed to bring this to you sooner than would be in the regular production schedule, which would have been in November. And as we're going through back to school, I don't know if there's ever a time that we're more stressed as parents and feel overwhelmed. And I really want to help give you a resource with this interview to help you see that there can be a different way of living life. So let's get ready to dive into the world of unflustered living, understanding anxiety styles, and transforming the way we approach parenthood, partnership, and entrepreneurship. Our special guest needs no introduction, but we're excited to introduce her anyway. Joining us today is Amber Trueblood, an accomplished author, sought after speaker, dedicated therapist, and passionate educator. She is the inspiring mind behind the book, The Unflustered Mom: How Understanding the 5 Anxiety Styles Transforms the Way We Parent, Partner, Live, and Love. Amber's wisdom is a guiding light for those seeking clarity in the chaos, and she's here to share her insights, strategies, and empowering perspectives on how we can thrive as mompreneurs while keeping our inner peace intact. So grab your favorite beverage, find a cozy spot, and let's dive into this enriching conversation with Amber Trueblood. Get ready to uncover the secrets to an unflustered, empowered life. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Amber Trueblood. Hi, Amber. Welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to talk to you because we're all in the thick of it right now with going back to school and dealing with parenthood. And you have so many amazing resources for moms that I cannot wait to dive into, especially your book, The Unflustered Mom.
Thank
Is that
you, Angela.
possible?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's not like constant unflustered. It's,
Right.
here are the tools and strategies so that you can be as unflustered as possible, as much as possible. But I do
Mm-hmm.
think, man, this back to school stuff is no joke. First of all, online portals, is anybody over those? Like online portals for medical stuff and now for school stuff
Yeah.
and passwords. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
are you trying to drive us insane? And
Mm-hmm.
especially for entrepreneur moms, like I really think the general public does not understand A, how much is already on your plate as a mom, then how much is on
Mm-hmm.
your plate as an entrepreneur. And then you add back to school, buying shoes and clothes and school supplies and filling out the forms and doing last minute doctor's appointments. And like the workload doubles. And it's not like you get to take 3 days off work or
Mm-hmm.
like you don't schedule any meetings for late
Mm-hmm.
August. Like all of a sudden it's upon you. And I don't know if you're anything like me, but every year this happens. And every year I'm freaking surprised and not prepared for it.
I
Like
know.
my kids are older now and I had all these bolded emails like these forms are late. And I was like, oh gosh. So I logged in and it was like August 14th when I logged in. They were all due by August 1st. I was already 2 weeks behind the game.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this stuff. Like it's ridiculous.
Mhm. Yeah, we're inundated, and I want to talk about that. But first, why don't you give us a little background about like
Sure.
your awesome, background and what you do?
Great. Yes. So I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm an author. This is my second book, The Unflustered Mom. The first was called Stretch Marks. And I just finished the proposal for Tour Life. I guess it'll be the fourth book today. So that was exciting.
Congratulations.
And thank you. Thank you. I have four sons. They are 10, 12, 14, and soon to be 16. I always
Mm.
appreciate this time of year because their ages are easy to remember for about 2 months. And then it gets confusing again. Like you can't keep them straight. But I am all about, coaching and serving moms. I love working with entrepreneur moms, especially, but serving overwhelmed, stressed out, burnt out moms who need real, practical strategies that are realistic and that they can actually implement in their life as
Mhm.
easily as possible. Because I can invent and create and share a bazillion like amazing strategies and tools, but like
Mhm.
if they're not going to work for you specifically, so I'm very
Mhm.
about like individualizing the strategies so that oh yes, this one yes, these four no, not so much, so that you can
Mhm.
pick what will most likely work for you, because
Mhm.
only then will it keep going. Will you keep using it long enough to see the
Mhm.
benefits from it? And then it becomes self like amplifying because you're like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
I don't want to stop this like meditation practice, or I'm not going to stop
Mhm.
this like 10-minute afternoon walk after I drop my kids off at, soccer practice or whatever it is like that
Mhm.
works for you. I want it to be super easy to implement so that
Mhm.
you see the benefits right away.
Mhm.
And then it just amplifies, hopefully, all the good that's happening in your life
Mhm.
and minimizes the stress, anxiety, burnout, frustration, resentment, on and on. Right.
Mhm. Yeah, and I all of that. And the one thing that really gets me is you talk so much about how we're just addicted to being on all the time, which, like you said, you get the 20 emails that everything's late. And, we're just kind of desensitized because we're just constantly inundated with all of this information. So, I want to dive into that, but I would love to know. I see so many parents that need help with managing it all. But,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they think it's possible, And so where do you meet your clients at when they find you?
Well, you mean like how do they find me, or
Yeah,
what
I mean, are they
space in
just
their life?
totally burned out, or are
It's all
they,
kinds of
you
different,
know
sometimes they've got one area of their life like, okay, you know
Mhm.
what, this is like kind of on autopilot, it's going well,
Mhm.
and I want to improve this other area, right?
Mhm.
Or, like my business is going really well now, but my relationship is kind of a hot mess. And I
Mhm.
want to focus on that a little bit. Or my relationship
Mhm.
is going really well, but my like self-care and like how I'm
Mhm.
taking care of my physical body is not what I'd like it to be, and
Mhm.
I want to make the time and space to prioritize that. So, whatever it
Mhm.
is that is kind of the area of your life, whether that's your relationship or your own personal, mental, and emotional and physical health, or your parenting, or your business, what is it that needs more support? And like, how do you make that happen without like, oh, I'm just going to get up 2 hours earlier now? And
Mhm.
because that's not, achievable over the long period of time, right? Like that's
Right.
not, you can't keep that up.
Yeah.
So I want to help you kind of navigate that so that you can do it more easily, more effectively. And, I have four kids, I have a business, I write books, and I am not about like adding more to your plate, right?
Right.
So I'm all
Mhm.
about like what can work the best. Like I love brain hacks,
Mhm.
I love neuro hacks, I love tricking your brain. Like motivation, I talk a lot about because it's
Mhm.
such a farce, kind of what like I just wrote an article in what was it in Psychology Today about kind of how to hack motivation, because it's not about like, oh, I'm not motivated. If you're not motivated, there's a reason. There
Yes.
is a good reason why it's not happening.
Mhm.
So let's
Mhm.
figure that out and get at it that way. Then, like,
Mhm.
forcing your way to do something because you think you
Mhm.
should or you're supposed to is
Mhm.
just like unlikely to be very successful. And you're not going to probably do your best work anyway
Mhm.
if you're feeling like, oh, twist my arm. I have to do this for my business because I don't want to pay
Mhm.
somebody to do this part. Like, there's a way to hack it by
Mhm.
tuning into what's your motivational style and then
Mhm.
tuning into like habits and how do you create a habit. So I have hacks for all of that. But I would
Mhm.
love to start off by saying, touching on something you just mentioned, which is kind of where do you start with people? And to me, the
Mhm.
very first step
Mhm.
is self kindness. And
Mhm.
I mean this not because, like, oh, it's nice to do. Yes, of course, it's nice to be nice to
Mhm.
yourself. I really do want you to be nice to yourself, but that's not why. That's not why. So when you
Mhm.
talk about like us being in this do, go, 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 run, spin, like act, like so active all the time, right? Physically. And if we're
Mhm.
not active physically, we're mentally like always thinking about
Mhm.
the future and planning and it's difficult to slow down. And we get
Mhm.
kind of addicted to that pace sometimes. And so the first thing I would say for moms, especially, and entrepreneurs, especially, is it's okay. And it makes sense that you've become like that. It's
Mhm.
okay. Because when you first have a child, like if you don't prioritize their needs above your own, like they're not going to survive very long. So, like,
Mhm.
there's a time and a place when that kind of like action and caring for other people or caring for your business above your own health, above your relationships, above your you're making financial decisions that are super scary and risky because you're like, just putting all your time and energy and
Mhm.
resources and attention into this thing that you believe in. And that's beautiful. So there is a time and a place where that kind of not had to happen, but it makes sense that it happened that way.
Mhm.
The hard part is knowing when and how to start letting that go so that you can prioritize your own relationships, your own mental health, your own
Mhm.
physical health, your parenting higher and higher again, right?
Mhm.
So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, actually, this is going well. And I'm not looking to spend the next 30 years of my life not ever like having a date night with my partner or not ever like eating something green and healthy for me. Like, you know what I mean? Or like
Mhm.
not ever sitting down while I eat, or
Mhm.
like eating, like drinking a whole pot of coffee before noon every day. So there are things, right, that we want to do for ourselves. And so the first part is self-kindness, because I think if you're busy beating yourself up,
Mhm.
it's very difficult to move from that place into a solution
Mhm.
because you're too busy beating yourself up. So
Mhm.
instead of that, like, let's be kind to ourselves and say, hey, you know what? Like, maybe I would look back and do things differently, but I didn't. And now I know different things and I've learned and I've grown. And that's okay. So, like, it is what it is now. I want to accept and be grateful and be kind to myself for where I am now and like really
Mhm.
focusing on the gratitude. I also just spoke recently about strategic gratitude. And that's basically the practice of the area of your life that you're most frustrated in. Like,
Mhm.
so say, I don't know if you want to share, but like pick one area that you're like, this is where I would want the most change right now in my life.
Oh, I mean, it would just be like a smoother school process, I think. Just having a
Perfect.
more harmonious
Great.
situation around that.
So, when you do a gratitude practice, if and when, or if you want to start one, is specifically find things to be grateful for in that area, which is
Mhm.
hard sometimes. You're like, well, it was easy to find school shoes this year, like whatever it is, like pick anything. Like,
Yep.
I found a route to school that doesn't have a lot of traffic. Like, on
Yep.
Fridays, they do free lunch, like whatever it is,
Mhm.
find
Mhm.
three small, like, they don't have to be big, but as specific as possible, things that you can really elicit those feelings of gratitude for.
Mhm.
It helps you kind of get a little bit more realistic view of the situation because chances are it's not 100% terrible. It's just those few things that are hard get
Mhm.
amplified, right? And that's what we
Mhm.
focus on because that's how our human brains work, and that's how we solve problems, and that's how we function, which is fine and well, but it's hard to solve those things coming from this place of of panic and resentment and kind of
Mhm.
visceral response to it. So
Mhm.
getting into a space of strategic gratitude where you're specifically finding and feeling
Mhm.
gratitude in that same area that you're super frustrated
Mhm.
about, that can be
Mhm.
really powerful. So you want to like start with self-kindness, get into like some gratitude and some
Mhm.
self-awareness. And then the third step I want everybody to do is ask yourself, like, where is this working for me? So whether it's your business or parenting or really any area of your life, where is this working for me? So even
Mhm.
like the addiction to overwhelm, right? Even
Oh,
this
yeah.
kind of like, I call it like achievement junkie. And one of the 5
Mhm.
anxiety styles that I discuss in the Unflustered Mom is the dynamo. And she is the dynamo mom is very kind of addicted to achievement, addicted to
Mhm.
achieving, very much making decisions from her head and practical sources instead of like a gut feeling or an intuitive feeling. It's more practical, it's more future. She tends to be more in the future than in the present moment. And
Mhm.
she also tends to be like, okay, so say, oh my gosh, I got 10,000 downloads. That's amazing. Okay, well, what can I do next month to go to 20,000? Like it's immediately onto the next goal, onto the next goal, onto the next goal. There's very little time spent or energy spent celebrating, acknowledging
Mhm.
what the heck you just achieved. Holy moly, like
Mhm.
that was amazing. Because there's always going to be new goals to set, no matter what, right? No matter if you're Oprah or Michael Jordan or anybody, there's always going to be the next big thing, right?
Mhm.
So what can you do as a dynamo mom to really tune into the present moment more often, right?
Mhm.
To celebrate and acknowledge your wins, right?
Mhm.
And so for instance, I'm a dynamo. So I have an accountability partner, and every single night for the last 6 months on WhatsApp, we send each other messages and share 3 wins that we want
Mhm.
to really cause ourselves to stop and slow down and acknowledge just
Mhm.
from that day. And there are some days it's such a good practice for me personally because there's some days I'll go to leave the message, Angela, and I'll be like, I don't know, nothing, like nothing. I didn't do anything today. I can't even think of anything. And then I'll
Right.
take a moment and I'll be like,
Mhm.
oh, wait, like this happened and then this happened and
Mhm.
then this amazing thing happened. Like
Mhm.
those are all really good. So I'm retraining my brain to
Mhm.
slow down and to
Mhm.
focus and to enjoy all these achievements because I'm going to keep
Mhm.
achieving stuff because that's what fires me up, but I'm going to be far
Mhm.
less likely to burn out, right?
Mhm.
And I think that if you do take the time to have space for that gratitude, I'm more likely to achieve the next thing than
Mhm.
if I'm coming from it then otherwise I'm coming at it from a space of like, oh, well, I'm not valuable until, or I can't
Mhm.
celebrate until this next thing, or
Mhm.
somehow it's proving my worthiness. It's like kind of more ego based than
Mhm.
joy based. So, like, when I write the next book, you know, what do you think is going to make a better book if I'm coming at it from like, okay, well, this book sold, 1,400 copies. So the next book can sell 14,000 copies. And then the next book after that can sell 140,000 copies, like other than just being like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about the concept for my next book. I think it's going to
Mhm.
really, really resonate with people. I think it's going to help moms. There's so
Mhm.
many fun strategies I get to share in it. Like, I'm so excited to like write it. That's
Mhm.
such a different energy.
It is. Mhm. No, I mean, those things, those 2 things, like, just realizing that you can harness your brain and retrain it, like, that along with being able to change your energy, those things are just such game changers. I mean, I don't know what I thought, I wasn't, we all have this point where we're living unconsciously and something happens and we like are
Wake up.
like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
And I think that those are just 2 of the fundamentals that in anything that you want to do in parenthood or business, it's just a game changer. And I think that those being intentional about the gratitude, it's like whether it's your partner or school or whatever, is just, it's everything because, you're changing your focus.
Yeah. Well, and I have an idea for your listeners because I'm thinking, entrepreneur moms, back to school
Mhm.
season, there's a lot on their plates. I want to make this time for them like super effective as well, like not only entertaining, but like what what will help you today? And, based on the 5 anxiety styles that I share in this book, um, you know, I love to talk about self-care because I really don't love that term. We need to find a
Feel
new
that
term for it.
too. Me
Yeah.
too. It's
But
like become you too ubiquitous. It's
well, and some people still, see it as a luxury. So I like to talk about two things. Like I like to share the difference between true self-care and surface self-care
hmm
because there's a huge difference.
yep.
So I'd love to like teach that. And then also depending on your anxiety style, like what motivates you at your core, what drives you, where are your
hmm
emotional triggers, that's the kind of self-care I want you to tap into because it's not one size fits all at
hmm
all. And sometimes it's easy to get wrapped up into somebody else like what's
Yep.
working for them. Like you run
Yep.
into somebody and you're like, wow, you look great, or you're so happy,
hmm
and you're like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh my gosh, like I just found this, I just started a paleo diet, or I just started this CrossFit class, or I just,
hmm
I just hired this VA, or I just got this new marketing deal, or I just had this new program, or whatever it is. And you're like, okay, I want that result that they got. So you want to copy their method, right? It's very easy. Like, well, maybe I should talk to your VA, or maybe I should. What was the program you're using now? You got Circle is the app
hmm
that you're using with your community now. Okay, I'll look into Circle. Like, it's very easy to do. And sometimes that might be the answer for you. But
hmm
chances are it's not. The beautiful thing in it is the gift is it's showing you, okay, yes, I want what she got from that. Maybe it's more
hmm
efficiency, more revenue, more time, less stress, whatever it is, you want that result. So then before you jump in and copy her path, right? I want you to
hmm
just take a moment and say, okay, do I already know what would really be that for me? So for instance, CrossFit, like I have friends that are like, oh my gosh, like CrossFit, CrossFit. And I was almost like, oh, okay, where do you go to CrossFit? I know I am not a CrossFit person. I don't want to drag tires across I mean, I don't know if that's what they do, but I think that's what they do. Um, like I love dance classes. That's
hmm
what physical movement fires me up, releases endorphins, leaves me feeling so high on life and
hmm
happy and physically good. Um,
hmm
so when I see that reaction, instead of being like, oh, okay, I'll sign up for CrossFit classes, I think, oh, you know what? I haven't been to a dance class in how many weeks? I'm going to
hmm
go on right now and sign up for some classes.
hmm
So sometimes you already know what will work for you, but you need that reminder, right?
hmm
Because maybe you've been out
hmm
of practice, or summer schedule or a launch just kind of knocked everything off course for you. So you stopped for a few weeks or a few years or a few
hmm
decades, even. Um, so I want people to know two things as, surface self care is something that while you're doing it,
hmm
feels great. Like could be a massage, or it could be a walk, or it could be, any number of things. But after you're done, you like the good feelings don't necessarily go on and on. For instance, like if you go for a massage and then you come back and the house is even more of a disaster and the emails have piled up and you're like, I'm supposed to be calm. I just spent all this money on a massage and now I shouldn't even gone because look at the blah, 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 like oh my gosh, like not only did it not help you far longer than that period of time that you were actually getting the massage, but it almost set up these false expectations of like, I should have been floating on cloud nine for the rest of the weekend. And now I'm immediately back and viscerally aggravated, irritated, burnt out. Like it's almost worse, right? Because my expectations were if I was going to spend all this money and time on a massage, that I would feel so blissful and relaxed and calm and patient the rest of the day. So, so that's surface self care. And I'm not saying don't
hmm
do that. I'm just saying manage your expectations with it. True
hmm
self care, funnily enough, is like often something that doesn't cost money. It's often
hmm
something that would sound really weird. Like this is kind of how it's it's true self-care for you is like if
Mhm.
other people would be like, really? You know, like if you're like cooking a 6-course meal or like
Yeah.
getting into the garden and like just like picking bugs off my tomato plants and like watering everything, if all your friends would be like, really? Or like learning the ukulele, like doing a French lesson, like it's often
Mhm.
something that doesn't bring revenue in.
Mhm.
It doesn't make like logical sense to spend your time. It's not like practical way to spend your time or money. And
Mhm.
it's something that often is like weird that not everybody would be like, oh, I love doing that. So do you have something in mind? Do you have something like that?
Um, gosh, I think, I used to be such a cortisol junkie that honestly things like just not scheduling anything for a half hour, an hour, or I am a person who physically finds it very tough to take a bath. I'm just like, let's go, and
Yeah.
to stop and listen to a meditation and take a bath and do nothing is it's physically hard for me. But I've found that those are just some of the things that are the best, and like you said, going for a walk. Like I'll go for a walk and it'll be like 100 degrees outside. People are like, why do you want to do that? I'm like, I need to be outside. I
Yeah.
need some
So being
sun and
outside, I mean,
nature.
and that's huge.
Hmm.
That is huge for a lot of people. I think more people need to spend
Hmm.
more time outside. Some
Yes.
would be go out in 100 degrees and be like,
Hmm.
I am going to melt and now I'm grouchy and have no energy the rest of the
Hmm.
day. You know, for
Hmm.
you, it's worth
Yeah.
it. Get out that
Right.
door, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, anything that's
Hmm.
weird that refuels you.
Hmm.
And it's often, like I said, it often doesn't, it's not the expensive stuff.
Yeah.
It's often not the like luxury pedicure or
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
It's often something that is in nature, that is
Hmm.
outside, or that is
Hmm.
like connecting with certain people in your life.
Hmm.
Not energy vampires, and not
Right.
people that like feel good to be around in the moment, but then afterwards, it kind of leaves you with
Hmm.
almost like when you have too many margaritas. Like it's a super fun in the moment. The next day, you're just like, oh my gosh, why? Like what
Right. Oh no, I've
happening?
tried those before I realized that I'm more of an introvert, and as an introvert, you should do different things than like, I think girls' night used to be like this big thing, like, oh, you should go out for a girls' night. And I'm like, this is awful.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because introverts, like I really learned about myself over the course of the pandemic and being inside a lot. And my husband and I, like, if you met both of us, you would think that I'm the extrovert and he's the introvert. And what I
Hmm.
realized was it's really the opposite. And he's really the extrovert. He just doesn't like necessarily like connect with a lot of people, but
Hmm.
he wants to, and he enjoys being
Hmm.
around a lot of people. And
Mm.
I can connect with a lot of people, but it's draining for me.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
so I will opt out a lot more often because
Hmm.
it's what my girlfriend and I were coming home from like a wellness entrepreneur networking event. She was literally like, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Those people were so."
Like, I need a couple days. Thank you.
I was like yawning, and it was like 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, I
Hmm.
like need a nap. I need a nap now. I'm
Hmm.
exhausted.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Totally can relate to that. So I think it's so important. I didn't get dialed in on like it's not one size fits all self-care for a long time. So I think that led to a lot of self-abandonment because I was just like, well, I don't know what these people are talking about because that is not my thing.
Yeah. So finding
Yeah.
your thing is huge. And
Hmm.
also, so I don't, you tell me what would be more helpful because I can go into
Hmm.
like a different types of strategies for each of the 5 anxiety styles.
Hmm.
Or I also like to talk about not preventative, sorry, that's more preventative. In the moment strategies to
Hmm.
reduce stress and anxiety that are like short, like here, 1 minute to
Hmm.
10 minute, like what can you do when you're
Yeah.
just having that kind of reaction and visceral, like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
this is too much right now. What do you think would be
Yeah,
most
I
helpful?
think that as moms, we find ourselves in that situation a lot, especially this time of year. And you never know how a day at school is going to go, or the new coach is going to
Yeah.
be, or so I think that would be really great.
Okay, cool. So this is what I'm gonna ask everybody listening to do though. I'm gonna name a bunch of stuff, and you know yourself best. So like if there's one that you're like, oh, well, that sounds really intriguing, or oh, I used to do that. That's the one that I want you to take away and do tonight. Not like all 12 of these, or even the ones that you've tried before and it's not for you. Like it's your job to be like, oh yes, that. So some of the like super short ones that I like are
Mhm.
more neuro hacks. They're more of like not trying, like if you don't have time to go journal or go for a walk
Right.
or go meditate or listen to an
Mhm.
audio, whatever, listen to a TED talk or something. We don't always have the time or the like mental capacity, especially when we're emotionally like viscerally reactive. Sometimes
Mhm.
that's exactly when we're like, I don't want to distract myself out of this because I'm mad because this person did this,
Mhm.
or I'm worried because of this, or
Mhm.
this problem I got to solve this. Um,
Mhm.
but often we're not the best problem solvers when we are viscerally, emotionally reactive like that, right? Our brains actually are
Totally.
not working super
Mhm.
well for problem solving. Um, but we kind of don't want to, like, I don't want to sit there and breathe and slow down and do a meditation. So that's why I like the neuro hacks, because it's a way to trick yourself into it.
Oh,
You don't have
yeah.
to agree. You just do the things. So
Mhm.
a very very simple one, and I'm looking around me because normally I have a pack of gum near me. My kids they found my new stash, so it keeps disappearing. But I always have gum near me. So
Mhm.
chewing gum is a neurohack. So back in Neanderthal times, if you were
Mhm.
eating, your body was telling your brain by the act of chewing, that you were safe. You're not getting chased by a saber-toothed tiger. If you're eating, you're not going to stop and be like, oh, here's some berries. You're going to run. But if you're stopping and eating, that must mean that your body is safe. So if you're safe, then the blood can go back into your internal organs. It can go from your muscles, arms and legs, back into your internal organs, back into your brain. Your respiration will slow, your heart rate will slow, your breathing will slow. Like that just happens naturally because your body thinks that you're eating. And since you're
Mhm.
eating, your brain thinks that you're safe. So it will release the necessary chemicals and directions to the rest of your body. Okay, everybody, we're safe. Okay.
I love that.
So yeah. So like when you're in that fight or flight mode, now if you're chewing gum and you're like, oh, like going bonkers on it like a cartoon character, not so much. But if you're just chewing gum, or obviously eating does this too, but this is just like an
Mhm.
easier hack. If you're driving in your car, you're working, or you're writing something, you can just chew gum, and that's a
Mhm.
super simple way. Also,
Mhm.
like if you have a glass of water, this helps you because so often we are also dehydrated and also not drinking enough water. Is
Mhm.
when you drink water, like actually chug like a good, you don't have to chug like a whole giant glass, but it forces you to breathe through your nose. So
Mhm.
you're going to naturally slow your breathing. Otherwise, you're going to like
Mhm.
choke, right?
Mhm.
Slow your breathing. It also means you're not doing other things. You're probably not texting as you're chugging water, right? You're there's certain things that your body just can't do, right? So it slows your breathing, it hydrates you, and it causes
Mhm.
you to maybe put down your devices for, 90 seconds while you drink the water. So that's another one. Um, a third one that I love is a cross lateral movement. So often when we're feeling particularly anxious or upset, our brain is kind of like spiraling. It's overactive in one area, just
Mhm.
ruminating about a particular thought or frustration.
Mhm.
And so our brainwaves they're not working super cohesively. And
Mhm.
cross lateral movements or movements that you can do with your body that facilitates communication between right and left hemispheres. So it kind of like calms all of that weird overactive stuff that's happening. I see by your head shaking, that you know
Mhm.
what I'm talking about. So like the one that I like to teach is like this. So you have one hand flat and you have the other hand that kind of karate chops across your palm, and you
Mhm.
karate chop it 6 times as quickly as possible. And then you switch hands. So it's always your top hand moving. So it's not just like your dominant hand moving, you're switching. So your right hand goes down 6 times, and then your left hand goes down, and you keep going back and forth 6 times while relaxing your shoulders and trying to breathe. So
Mhm.
you go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, while breathing. And for most people,
Mhm.
that will, within 30 seconds or so, reset your nervous system so that all of a sudden you remember what just happened, but you're not in this activated,
Yeah.
reactive mode from it. And you can think more clearly. That's super, super quick to do. And I often recommend, like, if you run team meetings and stuff, you don't know, everybody acts all happy, like, oh, I'm focused. You don't know what they're thinking about, right?
Right.
Don't know what phone call they could just got off, what email they just checked, what text they just got from their partner, what they're thinking about for after the meeting. You have no idea. So doing
Mhm.
something like that, like with your team, I highly
Mhm.
recommend, because it
I
gets
love that.
everybody just a little bit more focused on what's happening, because everybody's
Mhm.
acting, right? Like, oh, yes. What, Angela? Oh, what are we doing? Okay,
Uh-huh.
wonderful. I'm here. And meanwhile, they're totally thinking about something
Well, what's
else.
really cool about that too is I learned this neurological thing about the fact that when you're on a video and you show your hands within the first few seconds, you have created a level of trust with the viewer.
Oh, I
So I
love
think that's
that.
even more important because we have this neurology that says if you can see somebody's hands and they don't have a weapon in it, your brain
I
can
can
relax.
trust you and feel safe.
Yeah, so
Thank you for that new one. I love
yeah.
that. So
Yeah, so
even
I
when
think
you're
that that's
talking
super
to new
cool.
clients and
Mhm.
doing this with them
Yeah.
and having your hands up
Mhm.
here
Yes.
and open,
It's this brain switch, yeah.
that
Yeah.
is so cool. So
Yeah.
I mean, I love that. So that is amazing. And
Mhm.
even like a fake smile. So, I mean, and
Mhm.
this research has been around for, I mean, since
Oh.
I was an undergraduate, like 3 decades ago, over 3 decades ago, my Lord. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, the whole like pencil test where they would have you like, they had people either hold a pencil across in their mouth. So
Uh-huh.
it kind of emulated the muscles that you use when you're smiling, or holding it straight out like a straw and emulating the muscles that you use when you're frowning.
Huh.
And so this and that study's been done like repeated all kinds of different ways over the past
Mhm.
decades. But essentially, they found that even if you fake smile, it
Mhm.
releases chemicals in your brain that do all kinds of things, make you just
Yeah.
feel better, but also help
Mhm.
with your concentration, help with your mood, help with your perception of things that are coming at you, all kinds of things.
Mhm.
So sometimes, especially if you're frustrated, you can walk down the hallway to your next meeting just a big smile on your face. Like, and and even like if you're in the car or you're waiting for like a Zoom to start and maybe your camera's not on yet, you can do I was just reading, what book was it? I think it was in Super Better. It was doing something that's kind of an amplified version of that, where you basically make yourself as big as possible, like everything, like your eyes as big as possible, your mouth, your like everything as big as possible. Feels super funny. I do a lot of this stuff in the car when I'm driving around. I'm sure
Uh-huh.
people are like, what is this crazy lady smoking? Um, but it's effective because your
Mhm.
brain doesn't know that you don't have
Mhm.
a reason to do that. One
Mhm.
of my favorite financial kind of speakers, influencers, Amanda Francis, talks about going on a rant, and
Mhm.
so like of something you want to have happen.
Uh-huh.
So I would say to you, like, I would pretend I'm calling you, or even leave you a
Mhm.
voice message and be like, oh my gosh, Angela, I just found out like they offered me the contract for my next book, and it's
Uh-huh.
like more money than I totally expected. And
Mhm.
the cover, oh my gosh, I saw the cover and it's beautiful. And I'm so stoked. And like, you just kind of, you go on a rant.
Mhm.
And what that does is it elicits all your body's like, oh my gosh, this is so
Like
exciting.
really
And it,
happening.
right. And it releases all those endorphins and all
Uh-huh.
the, all the positive, chemicals and feelings in your body that are a
Mhm.
reset for you, and just feel good. And, I do a lot of manifestation practices and it also, works magically in that way.
Mhm.
Another one for mood, I'm on a roll.
I
Can't help it. Um, like I don't care how much time we have. Um, is laughing, right? Is belly
Uh-huh.
laughing.
Mhm.
So I will, if you're in my age generation, then Friends is kind of like the go-to, like,
Mhm.
sitcom that made us laugh. I don't know what it is of yours. You're a lot younger than me, I think.
Oh no.
No? Okay.
Like
I'll be
same generation.
49. Okay.
Yeah.
So you look amazing. Um,
Oh, thank you.
so Friends, like if you go to YouTube, there is a
Mhm.
Friends seasons 1 through 10 bloopers reel.
Mhm.
And it's like an hour long or something.
Mhm.
And the first several times I watched that, because I've watched it several times now, I would be crying, laughing, like just laughing so hard. I can't, like, I can barely breathe. And just tears
Yeah.
streaming.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
how good you feel after 10,
Mhm.
15 minutes of that is tremendous. And that stuff will last in your body. I mean, I'm not
Mhm.
talking about like weeks. You're going to have to do other things in the meantime. But like, if you're having a particularly rough evening and you're like, oh my gosh, it's 4 o'clock. I still have
Mhm.
6 hours until bedtime. Like,
Mhm.
I can't. It's too much.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
when it's like, hey, I'm going to go take a shower. And you just go hide in the closet and watch this episode, right? Or you go in the shower and you do like crazy laughing or do a rant,
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I love
I love that too.
during COVID when we were homeschooling the boys, and I would like randomly just take a shower at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't care
Mhm.
if I already took a shower that morning or if I was
Mhm.
it wasn't about that, right? I just
Mhm.
would drop everything and be like, I'm going to be in the shower. And I
Mhm.
would just go take a shower. And it was the best reset for me.
Mhm.
And the other thing I would do is, because a lot of moms, especially entrepreneur moms, we get really efficient with our showering. Like we can do everything and be in and out like that, right? So I would put on music, put on songs, and I would say, I would commit, okay, I'm going to stay in here for 3 songs. And you know how often like I turn it off and I'm like, oh my God, still on the second song. Okay, turn it back on.
Yeah,
Because I'm
my
like,
husband says, "Why are you so fast in the shower?" I'm like, "Man, I am trained."
yeah. So like literally like turn back on the
That's a
shower.
really good point. Yeah.
Just turn it back on, zone
Mhm.
out, sing a song, like whatever you can do to, do a little mindful practice, do some
Mhm.
mantras, like
Mhm.
try not to like write on the door, which I also do, like make lists of things to do in the don't do that. Have you done that before? It's just
I'm
me.
too worried about like I'll see it and want to clean it later and like notice there's
That's so funny. That's so funny.
but yeah, no, I love those because we have so much going on. We have to remember little tips like that to be more intentional about. We just have to be intentional about it. You
Well,
know?
and in the book, I want to, explain to people, if you want a resource guide, this
Mhm.
unflustered mom has, so I have in the moment strategies that are 1 minute or less, 10
Mhm.
minutes and
Mhm.
30 minutes. And
Mhm.
then from that, I try to guide people to create their own, what I call their emotional emergency support plan, so that you
Mhm.
choose ahead of time. Okay, these are the three that I know work for me really well that are in the 1 minute
Mhm.
category. These are the three for this. These are the three
Mhm.
for that. And then you have that. You take a picture of it, you put it on
Mhm.
your phone, you put it on your computer, you put it in your car. And
Mhm.
then, because sometimes in the moment it's hard to
Yes.
remember what will help
Yes.
us. So you already
Yes.
have the plan. And then I have the preventative strategies. And these are the ones that are dependent on your anxiety style. So if you're a lover,
Mhm.
if you're a fighter, if you're an executive, if you're a visionary, or if you're a dynamo,
Mhm.
Like, here are the things that are going to be most likely to refuel you emotionally
Mhm.
and, really be worth your time and energy. Because what refuels one person, like we talked about with the introvert extrovert thing, can
Mhm.
be really what drains somebody
Different.
else.
Mhm.
And so when you really know you're super in touch with like what refuels you and what you can
Mhm.
do preventatively, like once a day or once a week to keep your emotional bank account as high as possible, that's going to
Mhm.
serve your business, it's going to serve your family, and it's going to serve
100%.
you physically and emotionally.
Yes, 100%. And I loved how, you have a quiz that you can take that's part of your book. And, it's interactive. And, if you're not exactly one of the five styles, you can see combinations of different ones. And then I
Mhm.
believe too, like you can evaluate what kind of style your partner as well
Yeah.
is, right?
Most of the
Yeah.
time you'll be like, oh, yeah. I'm married to an executive and I'm a fighter. And because
Uh-huh.
I have a whole section in the book that's about each combo, every
Mm-hmm.
single possible combination, even two
Mm-hmm.
of the same, because that
Mm-hmm.
can have certain pros and certain
Mm-hmm.
challenges,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of how to facilitate communication depending
Mm-hmm.
on what combo you have in your life. Or it could be you and your mother in law, or you and your business partner, or you and your
Mm-hmm.
oldest child. So that
Mm-hmm.
could be really helpful too. And then,
Mm-hmm.
I love to create guided meditations and guided
Mm-hmm.
mantras. So
Oh, you have so many
on
on your website. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
great.
on the website, if buy the book, it's on Audible too. So if you prefer, if you're driving or walking and you prefer to listen to the books, um, it's on Audible. And then, but if you go to the website and you click in, like, I'm a lover mom and, I bought the book on Audible or whatever, then I'll send you all of the guided meditations specifically for lover moms. If you're like, well, I
Awesome.
want the ones for lovers and fighters, then do both,
Yeah.
then you get all of it. And like sleep, I
Hey.
have like sleep tips and I have some other bonuses in
Oh,
there too. But I get
great.
most excited about the guided meditation.
Yes, I think that those are so awesome because people have all of these preconceived ideas about meditation. And it's like guided meditations are just kind of effortless. Like you don't have to do anything, you just be and listen. And if your mind wanders, so what? But I think you're still subconsciously getting some benefit no matter
Oh,
where
for
you are at.
sure. For sure. And you can do it. I mean, you could do it wherever. You could do it in the car. Just don't close your eyes. You could do it while you're walking. You know, really, meditation is for you. So wherever you're most likely
Hmm.
to actually do it,
Hmm.
I think is best. I like to meditate as soon as I wake up in the morning, like before I
Hmm.
even go to the restroom, check my phone, grab coffee or anything, because
Hmm.
you want to kind of hit this alpha wavelength
Hmm.
with your brain
Hmm.
waves, and it's much easier to do if you're still kind of sleepy.
Right.
So
Right.
that's I'm all about hacks. What can I do to
Yeah.
cheat the
Oh,
system?
no, those are so great, and I teach those as well. It's so important, and people just don't realize, like, you don't have to be in that reactive state. I think it's so empowering. So, those are awesome. I know we could talk forever. I could just, like, talk to you. You'll have to come back when your new book comes out.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, but what do you want anybody listening to this conversation to take away? If it was one thing that you want to stick, what would it be?
Well, I think what you said at the beginning, which was like people feel like there's no, like, this is just how it is. I'm just going to
Right.
be overwhelmed. I'm just going to be burnt out. I'm
Mhm,
just going to
mhm,
be exhausted. And
mhm,
I would say, if you're wearing that as a badge of honor and part of you is kind of proud of that, which happens, and that's okay. There's no judgment here,
yeah.
but just
Mhm,
own it. If you're over
mhm,
it, if you really, really, truly don't want to be exhausted anymore or to feel
mhm,
resentful or to be burnt
mhm,
out, there
mhm.
is hope. There are tools, and,
Yeah.
there are resources like this book and plenty of others out
Mhm,
there that will help
mhm.
you for
No,
sure.
I love that. And you have such amazing resources on your website. I was like, wow, she's really like a badass. What is happening? I mean, I just feel so lucky to have conversations like this one. So thank you so much for your time. And before we go, let's share with listeners where they can connect with you and find those resources.
Yes, yes. So my website is my name, ambertrueblood.com. If you love and are on Instagram a lot, I'm at official Amber Trueblood. And yeah, and the quiz, everything can be accessible through the website. That's probably the easiest place to go. The quiz is on
Hmm.
there and all sorts of bonus resources. And I have a thing called Outsmart Overwhelm and a little tiny offer that's my mini mom workshop. So, all
Hmm.
kinds of stuff on there that you can use and dig in so that you have
Hmm.
more tools at your disposal so that you can get that,
Yeah.
emotional toolbox filled
Hmm.
up,
Right.
because you deserve to have like all the hacks possible.
Yeah. If you needed permission from anybody to ditch the overwhelm and
We give you
all of that
permission.
stuff,
Yeah.
yes, permission granted. Like,
Permission
go
granted.
check it. Go check it out for sure. Thank you, Amber, so much. It was so wonderful meeting you and talking to you about your book.
Thank you, Angela. It was really fun. I enjoyed it, and I hope it was helpful to everybody listening.
Oh, I'm sure it is 100%. And there you have it, moms. Another incredible episode of the Good Enough Mompreneur Podcast comes to a close. I want to extend a huge thank you to our amazing guest, Amber Trueblood, for gracing us with her wisdom and insights on unflustered living and navigating the world of anxiety. To stay connected with Amber and continue your journey towards empowered living, be sure to check out her website, ambertrueblood.com. Her book, The Unflustered Mom, is a treasure trove of guidance that will undoubtedly resonate with you if you're trying to find balance in the midst of it all. And remember, listeners, if you're looking for more support and guidance on your mompreneur journey, I'm here to help. You can connect with me at mombusinesscoach.com. Let's connect and keep the momentum of growth and empowerment going strong. Thank you for joining us today and being part of this thriving community. Until next time, keep bracing the beautiful messiness of life and entrepreneurship with an unflustered heart. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with fellow mompreneurs who are ready to thrive. Stay empowered and keep rocking those dreams, Mama. I can't wait to talk to you next time. Until then, I hope you have an amazing weekend and week ahead. I'll talk to you next time.